Let's go, Vikes! What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Vikings Spin. I'm your host, Jason, and we're going to break down the Vikings-Browns post-game recap here. The Vikings get a big win, 33-16 over the Cleveland Browns in London. The Vikings improve now to 6-2 on the season through the halfway point. So the Vikings will now go and get a bye. They'll be on the bye week coming up in first place in the division. Now they've got a couple of games cushion there over Green Bay and the Lions. The Lions are actually still playing right now against Pittsburgh as I do this podcast. But even if the Lions were to win, the Vikings would still be out in front. The best the Lions could be with a victory tonight would be 4-3, so the Vikings would still be ahead at 6-2. This ball game started out. It was pretty competitive in the first half. The Browns didn't lay down for us in this game whatsoever, especially in the first half. It was tightly contested. It was 13-12 Browns at halftime. In the second half, though, the Vikings took control. Came out and got an early turnover in the third quarter, which led to a field goal, put the Vikings up 15-13, and they never looked back at that point. They outscored the Browns 21-3 in the second half to finish with a 33-16 win. Case Keenum in this game played especially well in the second half. He finished on the day 27-43 for 288 yards with 2 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Jerick McKinnon had another game where he had over 100 yards all-purpose, 50 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. Also had a 2-point conversion and had 6 catches for 72 yards receiving. Adam Thielen continued his very solid season, 5 catches for 98 yards, and then got his first touchdown reception of 2017. Kyle Rudolph had the other touchdown that Keenum threw. Rudolph wound up with 6 catches for 27 yards on the day with a touchdown. It was a nice touchdown in the back of the end zone. Had a nice toe tap, get both feet down in the back of the end zone on a good throw by Keenum. On the play. Kai Forbath also continued his hot streak. He was 4-4 on field goals. Last week he was 6-6 and was named the Special Teams Player of the Week. Today, again, he was 4-4 on his field goals, including one from 50+. So hats off to him for another great game. And the Vikings defensively, they sacked DeShone Kizer 3 times. Linval Joseph, Tom Johnson, and Everson Griffin got in on the act again, and he keeps his consecutive game streak with sacks alive. He's got 8 straight games now with the sack, and he has now tied the Vikings team record he's now tied with Jared Allen and Jim Marshall for the Vikings all-time consecutive game streak for sacks. So hats off there, and congratulations to Everson Griffin on that. And if he gets a sack in the next game against the Redskins, he'll own that record by himself. Really, the tail of the tape in this game, I think, was the fact that the Vikings were 3 of 5, 60% in red zone efficiency. Once they got down there to get touchdowns, whereas Cleveland was 1 of 3, 33%. When you get in the red zone, being able to score touchdowns, I mean, it's so huge. For teams, and when you're in these tightly contested battles there, and that's what can set you apart there in the end. So the Vikings, in this game, I think what they were able to do is, they came out in the first half and They try to establish a running game a little bit there early on with Latavius Murray, and then later on in the second quarter, kind of turned a little bit more to Jerick McKinnon, and then mixed the two of them in throughout the game as things wore on, and that kind of opened things up for Case Keenum, heading into the third quarter, and then you saw him be able to take advantage of the matchups on the outside, which we talked about, a little bit in the pregame, that the Vikings would have some favorable matchups on the outside, of course, with Diggs, coming back into the lineup and drawing some attention there, and Thielen, of course, wound up having a big day. So, all in all, a good win here for the Vikings. Now they'll have a chance to go into the bye week and try to get as healthy as they can. Nick Easton, hopefully they can get him back. But, hats off to Danny Isidora filling in today at guard, and Rashad Hill had to come in for Mike Remmers, who left with a concussion, and Hill didn't miss a beat. Played really well today. But hopefully they can get Remmers back, and of course, the quarterbacks, Sam Bradford and Teddy Bridgewater are both trying to get healthy. But again, hats off to Case Keenum. He keeps the Vikings on track here with another solid game. I don't know of too many more backup quarterbacks that would be better than Case Keenum, and the admirable job that he's done filling in and keeping the Vikings on track. But the Vikings now heading to the second half of the season 6-2, and we'll see. I think we're going to see that things start to pay off there with with the way that the Vikings have played in the first half of the season. They've got a bunch of road games coming up here in the second half, but I think they've positioned themselves very, very well. So, basically, you try to get yourself to get to 10 or 11 wins, and you pretty much assured yourself a playoff spot. And I think the Vikings are in really good shape to do that this season. So, hopefully they'll be able to keep this up. I think the key for the Vikings too has been that they basically have just been taking it one game at a time, 1 week at a time, and that's definitely the right approach. Because you don't want to look too far ahead when you're when you're looking at a complete season. You never want to get ahead of yourself there, but I think Mike Zimmer's done a terrific job in instilling that mindset, and a couple of other things that were impressive today that Zimmer said was, the team is they're very close knit group. They like playing together. They like playing for one another, and that's really huge. The team chemistry, definitely helps, sustain victories for sure. And another cool thing was that the Vikings, over in England, I guess the people at the hotel said that the Vikings were probably the most well-mannered team that they've had this season. So, not only the Vikings doing well on the field, but they're also a high-character bunch, and that's really good to hear. So, but that's all I got for us here for the post-game recap. We will have a mid-season review coming up during the bye week, and then we'll of course have a pre-game podcast going for into the Redskins game. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Viking Spin, and I'll leave you with a little simple plan: ordinary life. Take care.